What is up, BookTube? It is Monty, and today I'm back again once again with another video. Today we're going to go over my August wrap-up. Now, August is by far, I'm going to, just like on a pure like numbers game-wise, August is my best reading month of the year. So I read 17 books, which is the same number of books that I read in the month of January, but I did read more pages. I read 7,213 for an average page count of 233 pages a day. On average, it took me 2 days to read a book. So that brings my total page count for the year to 39,604, and my average pages per month to an even 3,300. Now I'm going to go through these books that I read in the month of August, chronologically, starting at the beginning of the month. Some of these I'm not going to have too much to say, just because they were rereads, and I don't typically do like full discussions about the books that I read for my patrons. Just, I don't know, it feels a little weird. So the first thing I did in the month of August was I did a Taylor Jenkins reread reading vlog for the patrons, because Carrie Soto, which I will discuss a little bit more in depth, but the first two books I'm not going to, because I already talked about all of them on my channel at some point. So The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I reread it, I gave it 1 star again. Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is a book that I will forever hate and loathe, and I don't understand the hype and the appeal for. Then I read Daisy Jones and the Six, and I downgraded this. Originally, I gave this book 4 stars, and when I reread it, I gave it 3. Like, the book is fine. I think that Daisy is an interesting enough character. Billy, to me, will always and forever look like David Harbour. But here, like, it was fine. It was fine, but I don't think this book actively succeeds. I don't think that it's actually a better book than Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo the way that I used to think it was. I mean, it's better in the fact that, like, it's not explicitly anti-black, but the one black character we get here, Simone Jackson, isn't giving a lot. She doesn't really have a lot of agency in the narrative, other than to run around and pick up after Daisy. Daisy herself is very whatever. The Six or whatever. I feel like upon reread, the Six to me just felt very immature. Like, the idea that Daisy was the person who came in and knocked over this house of cards is interesting, I suppose. But when you take a step back, like, the Six were always a house of cards, and it's really a wonder that they were able to put out any music, let alone that they were successful in the first place. So I don't like it. I do think that Daisy Jones is going to be a better adaptation, and Seven Husbands is a better book if we just objectively. Then I read Malibu Rising, and this is a book that I upgraded. The first time I read this book, I gave it 4 stars. This time I gave it 5. I think that it's been very clear from the very beginning that Evelyn Hugo, that Taylor Jenkins Reid really likes Mick Riva, and Malibu Rising is all about the Riva family. Mick Riva is really the only cameo appearance that you get in Daisy Jones and the Six. He crashes a hotel party, and obviously he was important because he was in the first book, he was one of the husbands. Also, side note, Rex North is the only valid husband that Evelyn ever had. Only valid one, and his child Violet makes a very small cameo in Malibu Rising, and I love that for them. I would really like a Violet North book, so if we're gonna keep doing this, give me, let's go back to the Norths. Like, please, I would like to see it. But here we're following the Riva family, all 4 of them, namely Nina, but the entire family I think is like really great. I like getting to see the failed marriage that Mick had with the Riva mom. Like, when I had to read about her again, I felt so bad for that woman. I felt so bad for her. I think her name is June. Felt so bad for her, but it was such a good book. I think that Malibu Rising is probably Taylor Jenkins Reid's best work, because it really is a bunch of white peopling. There isn't a lot of, like, it doesn't attempt to talk about race in any kind of way. It doesn't try to do anything that it shouldn't be doing. Like, Malibu Rising, it takes everything I think that Taylor Jenkins Reid wanted to do when she set out to write these little pseudo-historical celebrity figures. It's great. Malibu Rising is also the one that you get the most Easter eggs in. You get Vivint magazine is how Nina gets her big break. Like I said, Violet North makes an appearance. There's a couple of other, like, small moments. Obviously Mick is here because he's a, whatever. But Malibu Rising, I think, really is the pinnacle of this era of Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing. Then we get to her most divisive book, I think, and that is Carrie Soto is Back. Obviously, this is a book that has just been released. It came out on Tuesday. Carrie Soto is the story of Argentinian-American character Carrie Soto going for the title, trying to get her record back. And I can understand a lot of people not wanting to read, especially in like a 2022. I think that there is, when I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, it was really hard for me. And I think I read that in 2018 to divorce. Maybe it was 2019. No, it wasn't pandemic years. It was like 2018, I think. So I think that obviously when Evelyn Hugo came out, the idea of a white woman writing this story was not like, there was not a lot of pushback. For years and years, people on BookTube have been very much in favor of hyping Evelyn Hugo. And so I see now that we have entered a different paradigm and people are much more willing to be vocal about this white woman writing about this Argentinian American. And I'm not going to speak to the Argentinian representation because I don't think that that's really my place to do that. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, the Argentinian rep is so good, because how the fuck would I know? I do think that if a Latinx author wrote this, then the fact that Carrie Soto is this Argentinian American would factor into the narrative, and it being absent from the narrative could be jarring. But I feel like if a white author is going to step into this and try and like write this book, I would rather it be absent than to see them attempt to do something with it. But I do think that it isn't tied to her being a Latinx woman and her rival being an Asian woman. It does feel very colorblind in that way. And so again, like, I understand people not wanting to read it, and I'm not going to be like, y'all need to go and support Taylor Jenkins Reid, and you have to read Carrie Soto is Back. Like, that's y'all's place, it's your business, what you want to do with your money and whatnot. I mean, again, I read the Libro FM copy, so it was free to me, and I had a really wonderful time. As soon as I finished this book, I really wanted to go back to the beginning and just read it all over again, because as much as I loved Malibu Rising, I think Malibu Rising is objectively like the peak of Taylor Jenkins Reid as an author. Like, we could have been done with it. There's something about the quality of Carrie Soto is Back that I just really appreciated, and I fucked with. If y'all don't fuck with it, that's on you. I love that. You know, you gotta mind your peace. You gotta take care of yourself. But I do think that when I think about how Taylor Jenkins Reid wrote Cuban Evelyn Hugo and how she wrote Argentinian Carrie Soto, I do think that there's a little bit of difference there, and I like her approach with Carrie more than I liked her approach with Evelyn. Then I read Crossroads by Jonathan Franzen. This was the winner of my Patreon reading vlog poll. Didn't like this. This is supposed to like set up for a trilogy. It's historical fiction. We're in the 70s. We're following this family where the patriarch of this family is an associate pastor at their local church, and he's kind of had a falling out with each of his children over their involvement in this youth group, and his eldest son is kind of estranged because he's off living his best life in university. There's and this youth group at the church kind of plays into the ultimate climax of the book. It just was a whole lot of foolishness. It was a lot of foolishness. It was a lot of stuff that didn't go anywhere. It was a lot of characters not really doing anything. There was extensive flashbacks that would give you like character depth, and it was weird. It didn't feel like a first book in the series, and I don't really care to see where this book goes following this, so I don't think that it really succeeded in pulling me in. But Jonathan Franzen is like beloved on these booktube streets by the litfic girlies and the litfic side of booktube. So like, take it with a grain of salt for me, but I gave this book 1 star. I wasn't a fan, and I don't know who would appreciate this. Then I read The Force of Such Beauty by Barbara Borland. One day I was minding my business, scrolling through Twitter as one does, and I saw a tweet from Dutton, which is the imprint that published this, and the tweet was essentially pitching the book as this story of a runaway princess who was running away. And I said, ooh, a runaway princess. I love princess. I love running away. It sounds messy. It sounds like it's going to be wealth and excess, all the things that I love in a book. And what I got was, it was different than I expected. So the book is set in the early 2000s, and we are following this former Olympian who used to be like a marathoner. What was her name? Let me just tap on this because I still have Goodreads open. Caroline. So we're following Caroline. She had an accident and her accident leads to her not being able to be an Olympic marathoner anymore. And so while she's in rehab, healing from her surgeries and that was a result of this injury, she meets a prince and she finds herself getting married to this man. And what follows is a story of like this toxic relationship that she finds herself in that she can't readily escape. And there were some twists and some turns and some things that I didn't see coming. The ending gagged me. There's a couple of books this year that have just really gagged me, and The Force of Such Beauty was one of them. This book I think is definitely flying under the radar. If you haven't heard of it, if you haven't, checked it out, you haven't peeped the summary, I say do it. I think that you too will be gagged. It is a bit of a slow moving story. There isn't so much of a plot as it is just hearing about this abusive relationship that this woman finds herself in and her trying to extricate herself and trying to protect her children and trying to find some sense of autonomy in this like larger machine that she has found herself in. So it is kind of like a slow moving story, but I do think that the journey is worth it, and the destination at the end of the book, chef's kiss. 5 out of 5 stars. Easily a new favorite. After that, I wanted to keep, the train rolling, and so I picked up The Fraud Squad, which is coming out in January from Kyla Zhao. This is set in Singapore. We're following our main character. I think her name is Sam, if I'm remembering correctly. It's something, nice and average. And she works at she works in publicity at this point, I think. She really wants to be a magazine writer, but she's working in publicity. It's like the best job that she could get after she graduated and she went on her job hunt. And in her role, she has befriended the socialite, who is kind of like this nepotism hire. So her and this nepotism hire are getting dinner one day with one of Singapore's most eligible bachelors, he's recently a bachelor, but he's also in this on again, off again situation with another socialite. And here we're following Sam and this friend group as they try and create a fake persona for Sam to use, because they think if she can like scam her way into being a socialite, then she can get the actual writing job at the magazine that she wants, and she won't have to like be in publicity and like be an event planner for the rest of her life. And it was a good book. It's a great book. It was a good time. If you read the synopsis and you look at the cover and you're like, yeah, I'm going to read that, definitely get in your library holds, definitely pre-order, do all of that fun shit, because this was a really good book. The next book I'm not going to get too much into because I reviewed it for my tier ranking video, and that was Zodiac Academy. I gave this 1 star. Like I said, it was giving House of Night. It's giving, like Crave, Crush. It feels like a book that is not really written for an adult audience and contains explicit material at a 7th grade reading level. And like, that's not to be like a dig or anything, because I do think there's something to be said about approachable writing, but this really felt like it's mismarketed. It feels like a story that is like, for a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old, but we're following these like really old characters who are in college and university, but are getting held in detention. Like, it's just, it's a little foolishness for me. I didn't like it. I don't, actually on Goodreads I didn't even rate it, so I didn't even get 1 star, but wasn't a good time. The next book I read after The Awakening was The Book of Godel by Mary McMinn. I have wanted, when the audiobook narrator pronounced it The Book of Godel, I was thrown for a loop, but you know what, it is what it is. This book, I think, really had some potential if it wanted to actually do what the prologue set out to do. The prologue gives us this PhD candidate. She is this woman who is, she works in like medieval Germanic texts and folklores, fairy tales, like that's her area of study. And she gets an email from this woman who says, I have this like old bound manuscript. I would like you to come take a look at it and maybe do some authenticating, just experience what this thing is. And so the researcher, the PhD candidate, this woman flies out to Germany. She's looking at this book, and so the book that she is looking at is the book the reader is reading. And I feel like that framework wasn't necessary. I think that we could cut the prologue and we could cut the epilogue and it could just be the text of the book and it would have been fine. The book itself, again, was aggressively fine. I think for a lot of the book, you wouldn't even really get that it was a Rapunzel reimagining. And so you really have to dig deep to find the Rapunzel links, and even then it was kind of mediocre. I didn't hate it though, so I did give it 3 stars. It didn't do anything for me. The next couple of books are also in that same tier ranking video. So Cleopatra and Frankenstein, I gave 1 star. The Portrait of a Mirror, I gave 4 stars. Great Circle, while excellent Twilight fan fiction, is not worth anybody's time. Malice, again, not worth anybody's time. And then I read Pachinko. It was fine. It was okay. Again, it wasn't giving anything extraordinary. But it was fine. If you've wanted to read Pachinko, go for it. But I don't think it's like top tier next level. The last book I read in the month of August was Yes, Daddy by Jonathan Parks Ramage, which that book put me through it. So I've had this arc sitting on my NetGalley for a couple of years now, and I said, you know what, let me go to my Hoopla, let me see if I can get any of these audiobooks. So I got the Yes Daddy audiobook, and I checked it out because it was the shortest one available. It was like something like 6 hours maybe, and I was listening, maybe it was longer than 6, it might have been like 9 hours, but whatever it was, I was listening at like 3 times speed, so it was like a handful of hours. And here we're following this main character named Jonah, and we meet him at the beginning of the book in the future. He is testifying at a trial where he is another character in the book is being accused of being a rapist, and so he's testifying at this trial saying no, that never happened. And then we flash back to 2009 because the present in this book is like 2015. So we flash back to 2009 and we see how this character meets the person who is later on trial and how this happened. And I think that the book attempts to do some like really interesting things. It attempts to do a lot, but the book itself is not long enough to really do any of the things successfully. So we have a scene where Jonah is trying to like woo Richard, who is the accused rapist. Jonah in the book is like 25, 27, and Richard is like double his age, because of course he is. I think Jonah is actually 25 at the beginning of the book, and Richard is like 50. And Jonah is like really down on his luck. He has no money because of course he doesn't. He's living in New York. He's working as a waiter. He's trying to be a playwright. And he thinks that if he can seduce Richard and be Richard's newest like boy toy, then he won't have to like worry about anything. And what happens is some time skips. So Jonah and Richard meet, then we get a time skip. Like 3 weeks later, a month later, Jonah and Richard are dating. Jonah is not really being financially supported by Richard at this point, but they have gone on a couple of dates, and Richard has paid for these dates at these like really expensive places. And then it's like the middle of the summer, and it comes out that Richard is going to go on a trip to the Hamptons, and he has not invited Jonah. And Jonah is like dead set on getting this invitation to the Hamptons. And this is kind of where the book goes downhill, and it takes like this really hard turn into, I mean, mind you, at this point, Jonah is broke, but he is like affording to buy cocaine, and like I know that addicts will addict and you can do what you need to do, but it's not presented as though Jonah is an addict. It's presented as though like this is just a fun, quirky part of his personality because all the gays in New York, you know, they do this. It's also presented that like Jonah is just like he gets fucked by Richard like their first date, and like it's a little rough. And so then when they go on this trip to the Hamptons, in the plot twist, and y'all don't need to read this book, so I'm going to spoil it. If you don't want to know the ending of how this book plays out, just end it here. Thanks for watching. There's no book after this. Like I said, this is the last one, so thank you for being here. If you're staying, you're agreeing to being spoiled. So what happens in the Hamptons is some fucking foolishness. So Jonah, they get to this compound. There's like a gate, and it's a complex. So Richard has a house, and his 3 other friends also have a house, and they are living their best life in this little compound moment. Richard takes Jonah to go clothes shopping, and there are some other people at the house that aren't Richard's friends. Like there's some younger men at the house who are all allegedly of legal age. But they are like the servants or whatever. I think this was it was. I feel like today this book would get comped to Get Out, even though there's nary a black person. But I digress. So they go clothes shopping, and Richard spends all this money on him, and they're like living their best life. And then Jonah starts noticing that Richard is being a little weird. Like, Richard is like taking his phone, and Richard is reading. He is claiming he's gonna like give Jonah some feedback on his play that is like loosely based on their relationship. And one thing leads to another, and Richard and Jonah break up. And when they break up, Richard says, "You owe me like $5,000. So you can." Oh, okay. I take it. You need to know that the morning that they're breaking up is also the same. It's like 2 nights after Jonah has been gang raped in the basement of their sex dungeon. Because, plot twist, there's a fucking sex dungeon, and Jonah gets drugged, and all the little serving boys are in the sex dungeon, and all of Richard's older friends gang rape everybody in the sex dungeon. So, mind you, this is happening. That happened, and Jonah is like trying to rationalize it, like that didn't happen. And at this point, I'm still on board with Jonah. Like, me and Jonah, like, I get you, like, I get it. We're here. Like, I get it. Like, obviously, is a traumatic. Maybe you think you had one too many glasses. Maybe you think you went a little too hard with the, the recreational drug use. You woke up in the sex dungeon. Maybe it wasn't real, right? Richard says, "You owe me like $5,000. And Jonah is like, "I don't have $5,000. That's why I was a sugar baby." And so Jonah agrees to live at the compound to pay back Richard. And I said, that's a little foolish, but whatever, sure. Cut to some other day in the future. Maybe this is even... No, this is definitely after. This is definitely after the breakup. And he gets drugged again, and they're getting gang raped again. Only this time, Jonah decides he's going to fight back. And so he, like, makes a run for it, and he passes out in front of the gate. And he wakes up the next morning, and Richard is there. And because Richard is going to go shopping in town, because just because he's a gang rapist don't mean he don't need to go to the town and get some cute clothes or something. And Richard is like, "Where do you think you're going? Like, what are you going to do?" And Jonah's like looking across the street at one of the other houses, like down the block a little bit, like across the field or something. And he's still naked at this point because, again, he ran from the fucking sex dungeon where he was getting gang raped. And he's like, "Yeah, I guess I can't really go knock on Becky's door because Becky's going to call the police and I would be homeless. And at least here I have a bed." And I said, "I'm sorry. Like, maybe this is me, like... Maybe, I don't know. Like, maybe this is just me, but I feel like if my options are being homeless, or being gang raped in a sex dungeon, like, this is the same issue that I had with Docile. It's like, if my options are going to prison, which we don't ever see explored here, or to be raped and repeatedly, and to be, given back after however many years. And I've seen my mother use this drug, and so her memory, she has fucking dementia at 36. I feel like I would take prison. Like, give me prison. And again, like, if my options are homelessness or getting gang raped by a bunch of geriatric old men in a sex dungeon, I'm gonna take homeless. I'm gonna take homeless every time. I'm gonna take homeless. I'm gonna take Becky calling the police on me every single time. And the book itself, and then eventually, Jonah does manage to get away. And again, we get to the point at the beginning of the book where Richard's on trial. Only Jonah decides to testify in favor of Richard and is like, "No, that never happened. The person who was suing him just wanted to be famous again because they were a child actor and they're not relevant anymore." And then the book continues on past the trial, and we see that Jonah is now working at a magazine, and he's writing reports on, like, the Harvey Weinstein scandal. And the book ends in this really foolish way, and there's a bunch of, like, threads that never coalesced into anything, but some of the ideas presented were interesting, but overall the book is just bad. Like, I don't think the book is good. I don't think the book is long enough to tackle any of the things that it really needed to tackle. The book is under 300 pages. I want to say it's 292. Again, the audiobook was very short. I read it in an afternoon pretty much. And so to me, I feel like there was a lot of potential here. There was something that Jonathan Parks Ramage could have done. And I will say that it was better than his husband's book, because Ryan O'Connell's, just by looking at him, was hot garbage. And I'm also really over this sick trend of like every white gay in New York is coked up and every white gay in New York is getting gang raped. Like, that's the thing. Like, I don't need every queer story to be like happy-go-lucky, like go for the messy, go for the drama. But it's like the white gays love them some coke, they love a good coke whore, and they love a good somebody getting gang raped. And I don't know what it is about that. Like, I need, are the white gays okay? Let me know down below if you're a white gay, if being like a coke fiend is part of your culture and getting gang raped. Like, that's it's like all the stories. K.M. Spare's been writing about gang rape in both of those full-length novels that they put out. This book had the gang rape. No, thankfully nobody got gang raped in just by looking at him. I think somebody was on coke though. I feel like coke definitely played into that storyline. But maybe I'm just making shit up at this point. No, he was just an alcoholic. He was an alcoholic. They love a good drug addict storyline. And like, I get it, like being gay can be traumatic, but like sometimes I feel like we be taking the trauma and the gays are just milking it at some point. Like, it takes it to a level of parody that makes the book just foolish to me. So I did not happen to end the month with like a really great book. Like, Yes, Daddy was painfully mediocre, but I did have some real standouts over the course of the month. So I'm not too upset with the month of August. It's behind me now either way. And so I'm going to keep moving forward. So let me know down below if, like me, August is one of your better reading months, or maybe it was your worst reading month to date. You can let me know your favorite or least favorite, maybe the gaggiest book that you read, something that you were like, I can't believe this is happening. You can give me one of those moments down below. But I'm going to go. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys again soon in another video. But until then, and until next time, bye.